And this week, Forbes Magazine released its annual list of the 400 richest people in America. Bill Gates tops the list for the 20th year in a row. But there's another familiar name on the list, that of Walton. Yes, the Walton heirs to the Wal-Mart fortune, occupy spots 6, 7, 8, and 9 on the list, with their combined wealth topping $135 billion. It's good to be owning the world's largest company that's spinning off stores from coast to coast and all over the world. But there's one place Walmart hasn't been able to conquer, and that's right here, Washington, D.C. Until now. Walmart recently announced its plans to open up 5 stores in the area, but those plans were nearly derailed when the D.C. City Council began considering a measure that would have required large retailers like Walmart to pay their employees a living wage of no less than $12.50 an hour in wages and benefits. Walmart, which notoriously pays much lower wages, announced that they would abandon their plans if indeed the measure passed. Well, the measure did pass. However, D.C. Mayor Vincent Gray vetoed it, and on Tuesday, the D.C. City Council failed to collect enough votes to override the mayor's veto. Walmart said it now plans to proceed with its initial plans to bring stores to the nation's capital. So is this a good thing or a bad thing for this city and other cities that Walmart may come to next to open up new stores? Let's talk about it with Anthony L. Fisher, a producer for Recent TV in New York, and Reverend Graylan Hagler, the senior pastor at Plymouth Congregational and the D.C. chairperson of Faith Strategies. Welcome to you both. Thank you.
Thank you.
Reverend Hagler, I want to start with you here. What impact might a Walmart opening up in D.C., what impact might that have on D.C., especially without any of these living wage laws there to protect workers?
Well, with the sheer size of the corporation and the economic might that it applies to any situation, it has the ability to drive salaries down or to lift salaries up. It basically sets the marketplace just by its own weight, its own economic weight in an environment like D.C. One correction I'll put, they're not proposing to build 5 stores, they're proposing to build 6 stores in Washington, D.C. So it's even greater weight that is going to be applied in D.C. And so as they pay minimum wage or just above minimum wage, they'll have the ability to drive down the expectation around wages and benefits in the city.
But what do you say to people who say, you know, look, D.C. has an unemployment rate a point higher than the nation. Won't this bring some jobs to the area?
Well, it'll bring jobs, but it'll also wipe out jobs, because the reality is you already have a business structure, small business structure that has existed through thick and thin, through good economic times and bad economic times that have existed. And basically right now I can go out and I can look at all the sites and you can see all the businesses that will not be here 2 years from now, a year from now, because they will be wiped out. And the fact is what takes place in an environment like this is not the amelioration of economic conditioning, but the worsening of economic conditioning because of the sheer weight, volume of a Walmart and its ability to also wipe out other kinds of economic infrastructure.
Anthony, I want to bring you in here. Over the last year or two, we've heard this term job creators really be thrown out in our political debate here, and Walmart is considered one of these quote-unquote job creators, but studies show that its job creation record are a bit spotty. We have a 2008 study from the Journal of Urban Economics said that they looked at 3,000 counties where Walmart had a Walmart, and it found that Walmart kills on average 150 retail jobs at the county level. Another study, 2009, from Loyola said that Walmart in Chicago created net 0 jobs. And a 2008 study in Maryland showed that it actually cost 400 jobs when Walmart moved in. Why should we expect that the retail giant will improve Washington, D.C.'s economy given this track record?
Well, I mean, the Democratic mayor of D.C. vetoed the city council because he understood that having 3 large businesses that are going to employ a lot of people in low-income areas is a good thing, and that ultimately it's better to have non-unionized jobs than no jobs at all. And nationally, Walmart pays their employees comparable wages to unionized supermarkets. So the idea that they are destroyers of small businesses is actually not met by the data nationally.
Well, you know, actually, that's incorrect, because when you look at Walmart, the reality is Walmart, yes, pays some salaries, but they don't pay benefits very often. And the benefits that they pay are too costly for most workers who are called associates in Walmart to access. I mean, that's the reality. And in fact, when you look around and see what happens with the Walmart associates, is that they end up on public assistance, or they end up having to tap into food stamps, or they end up in the emergency room. So the reality is not only the destruction of the jobs that already exist, but it is also the economic destabilization of an entire community.
That's an interesting point. Anthony, it's known that a lot of Walmart workers rely on federal benefits, mainly because they just don't get paid enough to make ends meet. I mean, this is true of a lot of workers, not just at Walmart. But at the very least, isn't it a corporation's responsibility to pay their workers enough so that taxpayers don't have to go in and foot the bill?
Well, I mean, first of all, the term living wage is fairly arbitrary. I mean, we could say that $18 an hour, of course, why not? Walmart's a huge corporation. Why couldn't they pay $18 an hour? Why couldn't they pay $30 an hour? The idea that raising the wage 30% is going to solve all their workers' financial woes is kind of foolhardy. And the fact is, Walmart accepts 10 applications for every job they fill. People want these jobs just the same way people want to shop there. Nobody's putting a gun to anyone's head and saying you have to shop at Walmart. People in low-income areas shop there because it's the best value for the products they're trying to get. And if they can get them at cheaper rates than they can get at unionized supermarkets or specialty stores that cater to high-income people, then I don't see why it's socially just that they should be denied the opportunity to shop at a place like that.
Well, in a sense, you know, one of the things that folks miss is that we weren't trying to deny a Walmart access to the D.C. market. We were saying that you have a responsibility to pay a decent and meaningful wage. Everybody wants that. And particularly in Washington, D.C., you got 1,100 families a month moving into the city, new families. You got 60 cranes in operation on any given day in Washington, D.C., building luxury condos and all that type of stuff. The cost of living has gone up so high that it really has forced the working families out of D.C. because they can't even afford to continue to live here. And so, in a sense, I understand from my gospel, if I may put that out, to whom much has been given, much is required, and to whom much has been entrusted, even more will be demanded. And that's the principle we applied to all of these big box stores, looking at those who generate $1 billion and more in revenue, that they need to pay more. They need to pay a decent wage.
If I may, yeah, the city council, a great many of them owe their jobs to labor unions who help finance their campaigns. And those labor unions support unionized supermarkets who are in direct competition with Walmart and who don't pay substantially better wages. Sometimes they don't pay better wages at all.
But see, that's the focus. That's the focus that you miss, is that even when you talk about a collective bargaining agreement, you're not talking about wages simply in a collective bargaining agreement. You're talking about other things like wages, pension, you're talking about paid sick days, you're talking about all of those other kinds of benefits that come with a contract. Now, here in this living wage bill, we were talking about $12.50 minus benefits, because we were hoping folks would bite the apple and pay some benefits to their workers. So if you got there by paying $10 an hour and $2.50 in benefits, then you comply with the law. That's not unreasonable. We have the right to be able to demand whoever comes in to try to exploit our community, we have the right to demand that they should pay a living wage.
Anthony, clearly much has been given to the Walmart heirs. I mean, they occupy spaces 6 through 9 on the Forbes list. They're worth over $135 billion. This is the world's largest retailer. Doesn't it just sound like greed when they say, no, we can't afford to pay workers, give workers a wage where they can make a living?
Well, I'd prefer not to debate gospel if we're debating policy, which is the issue at hand here. We're talking about the city council voting on a bill that would make certain businesses, but not others, beholden to a substantial increase in the minimum wage. And the business in question responded by saying, okay, we won't open some of these businesses in your city. And again, the Democratic mayor of D.C. said, hey, it's better to have these businesses, it's better to have these jobs than no jobs at all.
Anthony, I'm guessing another part of the concern here, too, is this homogenization of the economy. I mean, how many unique mom-and-pop stores may go out of business thanks to Walmart's cheap prices, which are possible thanks to outsourced labor? What do you make of this argument that goes kind of beyond economics and speaks to more the character of communities?
Well, I mean, Personally, I am one of these urbane, big city types. I've only ever lived in big cities. The only times I've ever shopped at a Walmart are when I've been on the road. So it's not like I've got any, stock in the company or anything like that. And I generally like to support mom and pop businesses as well, but not just because they're mom and pop businesses. I don't shop at the most expensive specialty places just to feel good about myself or support the character of my community. I shop there because they provide a good or a service that I want at a price I can afford.
Reverend Hagler, last question here. What do you plan on doing to keep pushing this living wage bill here in D.C.
Well, we won the debate. I want to say that we won the debate, even though they didn't override it, because all of a sudden yesterday at the legislative session, there were 3 raise the minimum wage bills that were introduced into the council by those who voted against the legislation, except for one. The fact is when we did a poll over the weekend, we discovered that 71% of D.C. voters wanted the living wage bill and wanted the city council to override the mayor's veto. That's how.
Well, why should Walmart be the only company that has to deal with that?
It is not the only corporation that has to deal with it. It's all the big box stores. It's at 75,000 square feet or more, and your company generated at least $1 billion in revenue. Because to whom much has been given, much is required. That's why. That's the economic principle. How dare we build a society where
the rich? The economic principle.
How dare we build a society continually where the rich get richer at the expense of making people poor?
We're going to have to leave it there. We're
exploiting people. So we need to change our paradigm.
Right. We're fresh out of time. This debate will clearly continue. That was Anthony L. Fisher, producer for Reason TV, and Reverend Graylan Hagler, the senior pastor at Plymouth Congregational, and the D.C. chairperson of Faith Strategies. Thank you both.
Thank you.